Okay, so this is a bit of a weird and interesting topic that we're going to cover today, but we're essentially talking about the modern landscape of multiplayer and how there's been all these live service games, right? There's been games as a service being heavily ostracized and not really getting to the core of the problem. And we're going to talk about all those live service games that shut down, like Apex Legends Mobile, Battlefield Mobile, Crime Site, Crossfire X, Dragon Quest: The Adventure of Dal, Echo VR, Knockout City, Love Live, School Idol Festival, and Rumbleverse. Well, at least all the stuff reported by Gematsu. All these services are basically going the way of the dodo now. And there's other people speculating, hey, maybe Resident Evil Reverse might be next because it's not quite catching on. In my opinion, the landscape of multiplayer has changed. Nowadays, everyone wants to thrive on Battle Royale, or being the next escape on Tarkov, and having that sort of live service multiplayer where once Battle Royale blew up with PUBG and it blew up yet again with Fortnite, it was no going back. They had a formula that really resonated and stuck with a lot of people, and Battle Royale has been sort of the main objective. We see that COD also copied and pasted Battle Royale into Warzone. Then we move on to games as a service. Now, like I said, it's being heavily ostracized, and I think a game as a service can be done right with the right tools. Examples include things like Warframe or Fortnite or Destiny or Genshin Impact, but what makes them so great to go back to, despite having a live service model, segmented content, and you think of stuff like micros, and then we go to multiverses, and that's doing really good. That had a large pop to where people said that maybe future multiplayer titles should be free to play, which I don't necessarily agree with, because I don't want all multiplayer games to be like free to play. I want, all my content to be in the package. If I pay for a top-end AAA multiplayer experience and then I get it, and then it's like, you can put micros in, you can put all these shit, like these fucking practices in there, but I don't want every game to be free to play, because there are some games that work as a game as a service, and then there's some games where it's like, okay, I'm just gonna jump in COD and play for a few minutes and that's it, and I'm gonna have that high quality gameplay to match. And I think the gameplay is the most paramount thing here. What makes games as a service work, and it hasn't worked for all these other people like shutting down Babylon's Fall, is that the game just has to be fun. It has to be fun, it needs a hook, it has to be unique, and it needs to be pertinent to what is going on. Like I said, successful games like Apex, Destiny, PUBG, Warframe, Siege, all of them have differing means of being a game as a service. And they are successful. They are very successful. I mean, Siege, I've been playing that shit since year one, and I thought that game had something. I thought it was the first shooter that I played where it's like, okay, we're barricading ourselves in. This is fucking fun, man. And there was one tweet that said, games as a service might not be the problem at these games failing, it just might be the homogenization of multiplayer games and the lack of unique premises and identity behind them. That's true. Everyone now wants to be the same. They want to copy of Battle Royale, or they want to copy of COD, because it is the thing that is currently dominating in the multiplayer scene. So when we get some sort of AA or indie multiplayer game, it might not be the next Among Us or something like that. And even Among Us itself, I know I talked about this in the past, that took a while to catch on. I remember when people were saying Among Us just came out, and it was not as popular. It was not the juggernaut that it was until live streamers got their hands on it and they played the game and they said, hey, this is dope, this is really fun and enjoyable, we're liking this with a group of people, let's continue playing the game, let's continue promoting it and supporting it and marketing, because marketing is one of the most important things to a multiplayer game and having multiple players play that set game. So we move on to the gameplay being paramount, and that's also true. If a multiplayer game is not fun and if they don't have a hook to it, not a lot of people are going to play it. Attention spans in this modern day, they are very, very tiny. They're like a small microbe. So you need to have something out of the gate to entice people to come back, as well as that consistent content. I think I talked about this in my I forgot the video already, goddamn. It's like I just made the video and I fucking forgot about it. It was the Rocksteady thing, the new game they're working on right now. A Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. So I said, for a successful game as a service, and people didn't listen to this part of the video, which just cites the ignorance there, but I'm going to repeat it yet again. The important pillars to a game as a service is, once again, the great gameplay. The gameplay being king, the gameplay being awesome and saying, oh shit, I like playing as these characters, or oh shit, I can find this actually something to be competitive or cooperative, but there's that lasting appeal on the stick that lets you come back for more. And then we go to the consistency of the content. If you're gonna have a live service, you gotta have stuff on time, you gotta meet deadlines for roadmaps. It is, once again, something that should be constant. You got to have that transparency with your audience to say, hey, if we're gonna delay something, we're gonna let you guys know right then and there. But I, as a fan, I would prefer to have all my content delivered on time and ready. And if it is, that just shows to me that the developer is constituting my needs, and if it is good enough to keep playing the game, then I'm going to support the dev and pay for that content. Why would my funds stop there? You know, there's map packs and all this other shit that people have bought in the past and they know that they have. And then there is also one more pillar that I keep forgetting about, but I guess it is the quantity of the content and what you are delivering. And not only is the consistency important, delivering it on time, but the quantity also matters as well. So if I get like a new expansion to the game, something big, as opposed to saying, hey, we're just gonna deliver you like fucking 5,000 skins in multiplayer and nothing really too pertinent. Like, of course everybody looks good. You want people to look good and have those cosmetics, and that could be sort of an option to have people keep paying for more, because I mean, there are people who love cosmetics as much. In my personal opinion, it does not appeal to me, but I can see the appeal for people having those monetary values in costumes. But I want more out of my multiplayer experience. That's the point that I'm getting at. So if you give me more modes, if you give me like character expansions, maybe a little bit of a cooperative story or more additions to that, that makes it feel like the update is substantial, then I'm going to want more of the gameplay. It's fun. I'm gonna be like, hell yeah, I got this new mode. For example, let's say we're going around and there's a treasure plunder mode, or they put in something that's more than team deathmatch, spicing up the game, adding in more variety and making it unique in the parameters of that gameplay, and having a lot of multiplayer or cooperative offerings really matter as well. And I think if you have those three pillars, you can create a successful service that people, and it's been guaranteed, it has been something that stood the test of time before all these other games failed. If the game is really that fucking fun, you're gonna get people that support it monetarily. The landscape now has changed, and if we cycle back over to PlayStation, to Sony, how they are taking their sweet time to get live service models out, how they are trying to slowly get developers to work on their slew of live service games and to put them day one on PC, because you know crossplay is also paramount to some of these games surviving. I think that is very, very important as well, because nowadays everyone is playing on differing platforms for multiplayer, and that's what they want. If you put in crossplay, you basically open up the ecosystem to another slew of players that could keep the game alive for a little bit longer. So Sony is really pushing it for this, and whether they fail or succeed, that's up to God and PlayStation right now, motherfucker. That's up to both of them. But in order to increase their chances of survival, they will have to add in variety elements to these IPs and live services that they want to contribute to. They could go back and add relevant IPs to their catalog and try to bring those back to life. Who wouldn't want to see SOCOM probably come back in a more fun and tactile fashion? But you also have the flip side to that, where it's like, okay, you have this hardcore multiplayer game, and the hardest part about it is the easy to pick up premises, the paradigm between hardcore player and obviously the casual person that could get into the game, and they'll probably play for like once or twice and then that's it. You're gonna want to have it accessible as well, as my dogs go off, but you're gonna want to have that accessibility but not have it in one toe or the other. You're gonna have people that really will get skilled at the game, and then you're gonna have other people where it's like, okay, I just want to get in and play it, see if this is fun and see if this is for me, but I might not be the most skilled MLG person, so what can I do? And you're gonna have to balance that paradigm of it being fun enough to play between friends no matter the skill gap. So it's a lot changing in multiplayer. This is why fighting games itself, like, they're making those a bit more accessible, easier inputs compared to the past. We got Street Fighter, where the inputs are relatively easier compared to Street Fighter 2, where it's like just hardcore dialed in, but you have an audience for everything. So the hard part about developing these multiplayer games is finding the right balance for everybody, and I can see why it's taking PlayStation so long to come up with these ideas. Of course, I think one of their projects that they're working on, which is the Twisted Metal Wipeout developer Shindig, I think that is going to be a very fun experience. I think the controls are going to be vastly better than the Twisted Metal that came out in the past for the PS3, because it was so convoluted, my god. But there's so much to take into consideration, and the main thing is the drive and how these games will stick. And I think it all comes back to just the game being good enough to stand out on its own and have a very established and unique identity to continue forward. That's the only way you're gonna have these games thrive, and especially word of mouth. Word of mouth is also super important. Maybe drag in the live streamers to test and promote the game and put it on the shelf. I think that would be good, because once again, that's how Among Us sort of popped, is when they had those live streamers come in, and it basically, they just revived the game back from the dead. There's many avenues to go into. As for what I think on free to play, I don't, you could make something work with the model and then put micros or loot boxes on it if you want to find a way to gain money and have people pay for it. They did so with Multiverses. Multiverses might have locked most of the roster, but you can still get in-game currency, you can still grind and get those characters, and if you want the expedient route, then you could buy them no problem with real money, with that real sort of moolah with the currency. So there should be more options to how they price out some of these things, whether it's in-game currency or if you have to buy things with real money, stuff like that. Just giving you more ulterior motives to grind, or either say, fuck it, I'm gonna get this character for like $5. I think that's the way to go in terms of trying to make these things easier on people who don't know what they're hopping into yet. And the last thing I want to talk about is just the hook. You gotta have a unique premise, a unique idea, something that's fundamental to catch on. Not saying that developers will stop aping on each other, because we clearly saw that with Battle Royale. That tide is not going down, but there will be successes and there will be failures. And the best thing you could do is brush yourself off, pick yourself back up, and go to the paradigm of unique ideas, because that's the only way that some of these multiplayer games is going to thrive. And I know there's been some unique games that have failed in the past, but offering up that value and seeing what you can give to the player is really important. One of the things that I think they could do going forward is, even if you have your multiplayer games, you know, always online, shit like that, cater more to the offline side as well. What else do you offer outside of just the online only? Because there's still that prevalent argument, once you have an online game and if the servers die, that game is pretty much a tombstone. It's a frisbee at this point. So what else do you have to offer the person who doesn't play online that much, and they say, you know what, there's no single player modes, there's no arcade modes? What else are you offering on the game? We're not just talking about tacked on multiplayer, because if the story is good, then the tacked on multiplayer can carry it, as we saw with Uncharted 2. But what else is going on under the hood outside of just online only? And I think making that full package game is something that could also appeal to people who play offline. Just a little bit of a story or something to do when the servers are toast or temporarily down, etc. So that is my sort of analysis on the multiplayer landscape. Of course, the idea of gunning for the next Battle Royale success or the next sort of big thing has never been higher. It definitely can be proven that some games as a service can work with certain games, and there's been prime examples of that. It's just how they are applied to a game that is fundamentally important to the overall scene. If there's not enough exposure, if there's not enough people playing, it is going to die. So companies are trying to figure out how to have that lightning in a bottle and contain it for the best. We'll see what happens going forward. Obviously, for me personally, I don't want to see just Battle Royale all the time. I like Fortnite, it's fun, but I don't want to see that all the time. And I definitely do agree, more variety in multiplayer and co-op and games like that going forward will be the difference maker. That will be important to the overall scene. For example, just look at Capcom, how they keep trying to do the asymmetrical style game in the vein of Dead by Daylight, or they keep trying to do the PvP deathmatch experience, when Mercenaries is right there. It's right there to be capitalized on, and people really enjoyed that. They enjoyed Mercenaries so much in Resident Evil 5 and even Resident Evil 6. Why not make a big giant reunion game and put that out there and test the feelers, instead of doing asymmetrical multiplayer or something equivalent to Dead by Daylight? Why not do cooperative like Resident Evil Outbreak, which a lot of people want to play again, I know myself included. You could do a remake and make that with some core updated online features. And because back in the day, you know what I mean, Resident Evil Outbreak was put on the PS2, where technology was slowly, gradually getting better. Nowadays it's very optimized and it's better than it used to be, so it could work better as an idea. Why not do that? Instead, they just put out Reverse and the numbers are dwindling, and we see the result of that. So that's just what I'm saying, man. Just experiment more. Don't be afraid. Anyway, my name is Renegade Operative. I am signing out. Hopefully you guys really enjoyed this video, this discussion on multiplayer games as a service and how we can better the situation and what they could improve, what they could fix, identifying what the core problems are. And now I will turn this question over to you, the audience. What do you think is needed for multiplayer to be more unique, for games as a service to thrive? Let me know your comments below, and I will talk to you guys soon, another time. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and see you guys next time. Later.